Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tone Tales. Welcome to the Cincinnati Chronicles. And I would be being entirely remiss if I didn't give out a hearty Go Bengals for their playoff win at the weekend. The first in 31 years to say I was on the edge of my seat and howling like a madman in the closing moments would be a bit of an understatement. So, yeah, now we only have two more nail-biting playoff games to go and then a nail-biting Super Bowl and my life will be complete. Well, that part of my life anyway. So yeah, join me next week where I'll be bemoaning our latest playoff loss. But there we go. So welcome aboard. This is the third story arc in our Cincinnati Chronicles, which is a World of Darkness anthology series where we cover the 5 core systems of the old World of Darkness. And each story arc is taking place, I should say, in the same 24-hour period in the city of Cincinnati, one very warm July or June summer's day in 1995. I've written this story. I know it inside and out. Yeah. Hi, Mage the Ascension today, which is a good fun one. A very popular system, notoriously quite difficult to run, although not as difficult to run as our next system, but more on that in 4 weeks' time. Yeah, unlike Vampire and Werewolf, both of which I've run quite a lot, especially Vampire, I have run Mage the Ascension a grand total of for one session in the real world. So bear with me as I just fundamentally mess all of this up. Yeah, but it's going to be good. We're looking forward to it. So before we get to the introduction of this story and our characters and everything, let's get that pesky promo out of the way. Down below the video, you will find a number of links to our Twitch and our YouTube, one of which you're watching this on. Please do check out the other and follow, subscribe, and watch all the stuff and all that good things. All that good things. You'll also find links to our social media, our Discord, and our Patreon. They all do the things you might expect. If you're interested in any of them, give them a whirl. We run 3 weekly shows here on Twitch. Mondays is Shadows of Esterin, Wednesdays is Simbroom, and Thursday is obviously the Cincinnati Chronicles. All of those start at 8 p.m. GMT. Come join us for them. We'd love to have you on board for the ride. We also run one-shots on the first weekend of every month where we do lots and lots of different systems and have lots of fun doing it. The next one is coming up and should be on or around Saturday, February the 5th, and that'll be Tales from the Loop, which I'm looking forward to. It's a great little system. I've run it before, and it's, yeah, really, really unique feeling. So please join us for that. If you're interested in watching us play a load of different systems, check out our YouTube. They're all available as video on demand on that platform. So there we go. All right, let's start the ball rolling properly here, and we're going to start it not by introducing the characters. We're going to do that in a different kind of way today, but we're going to introduce the players at least. Regular viewers of Cincinnati Chronicles will know who to expect, but join me in celebrating the arrival of basically all. I'm just going to bring all 4 of them on at once. I see no real reason not to do so. So we have Chris.
Kháos! Yay!
We have John. We have Holly. And we have Pierre.
Panic!
There we go. Panic!
At the disco?
Enough of that on this channel, thank you. So there we go. This is our cabal of mages for Mage the Ascension. Like I say, we'll introduce their characters in a short while, but first off, I want to paint a scene for you. It is a scene of a relatively large group of individuals all sat in quite an old-fashioned tiered lecture hall. Everything is kind of wood and stone. A number of kind of modern conveniences have been laid on top of it. There's, maybe a sink and a water fountain, like a drinking water fountain in one corner. There's probably at least one PC set up. Several of the individuals in the lecture theatre will have their own laptops and things like that. It generally looks like, an old-fashioned university building that's had a touch of money and modern convenience sprinkled over it, but not enough to hide the facade of aging grandeur that it's got. At the center of the floor of the room is a man standing there teaching. He is dressed in a very self-consciously lecturery style, in kind of like a tweed jacket and sort of green chinos, patches on the elbows, all exactly what you'd expect, but also wearing maybe just like a t-shirt with an old punk band logo on it underneath that. And we'll go ahead and say, I don't know, the Clash. Let's say he's got sort of very 90s curtained floppy hair, a pair of quite fashionable looking glasses, and he could be in age, honestly, anywhere between his early 20s and his early 50s. It's quite literally impossible to tell. This is Professor Will Cray, and he is your professor, or at least one of your professors here at the university that you currently call home, which is Narentus University. And he is holding forth on various topics of interest to you, and we're going to start this with him kind of coming to a close of one quite long rambling anecdote about some of the work he's done over the past decades with various notable individuals in his field of interest. And as he whirls around, he picks up a kind of little clicker device and clicks, and in the air above him, hovering over the lecture theatre in very large and grandiose fashion, appears a faintly sparkling and bright and very physical looking hologram that hangs there in the air, displaying a number of principles with which you are very familiar. And I think John would be able to display that for us. If he could. And here we go. So, Professor Cray, he likes to be called Will, will gesture at this with the clicker that he's holding and say, "But these are all things you know. I'm sure this is going back to first principles for many of you. But humor me a moment. If we look at this, the 9 spheres linked together in a flowing majesty of concepts and forms, we can perhaps pick out the most useful information of all when it comes to looking at them holistically. And I think we'll hear from Charlie. Charlie, why don't you define the prime sphere for us, please?
Well, prime's where it all comes from. So if the universe is a loom, then prime is the fundamental thread upon which the other spheres are weaved between. Prime is the unified field, the unified energy of creation.
A fair summary. I like the idea of a loom. We often don't put our work in terms of machinery. It's become something of a faux pas, yes, but I like that. I like that, Charlie. Thank you very much. He goes on to talk about the spheres of mind and spirit, talking about how mind is the picturing of the prime essence, and spirit is the focusing of it into forms that are kind of interactable if one has the skill and the ability to talk to such things. He picks a couple of other of the various students to talk about those, and then turns. Again, he kind of turns around a lot when he's talking, kind of almost at times turning and putting his back to the entire crowd of the students sat there, almost as if he's pondering to himself in his rooms. And then we have these things becoming form, becoming something we'd recognize in physical reality. Why don't we start? Let's start with life. Roth, you take us through that, please.
Life is all things organic or biological. It is life.
Life is life, indeed. A very apt, if some might call that limited, Mr. Roth, I call it a direct summary of the case of as is. There's forces and matter as well. He turns and again picks on a couple of different students And then he starts talking about perception. He starts talking about how these concrete things, how they're perceived and how they move around within their reality is defined by correspondence and time. He asks another student, probably a virtual adept, since they're covering correspondence, and then says yes, and time, perhaps a member of our esteemed colleagues in the cult of ecstasy. Carolyn, could you walk us through what time means to you, please?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was just somewhere else. Yeah, time. It's like when you're lying on your pillow and you hear your heartbeat in your ears, and then you're like, oh, there's like a rhythm. There's a rhythm to the pillow and to my soul, and then you just, if you just listen carefully, the universe is like a song, and you can just hear the rhythm, and if you hear the rhythm, you can dance along with it, and you can't sometimes take a few steps back, but I don't know. I think moving forward is the way of things, and
absolutely. Thank you, Carolyn. And while it might be easy to see Carolyn's exploration there as perhaps slightly picaresque, I think it says something important. Time, people, is a constant heartbeat underlying everything in our reality. And as Caroline says, it is the rhythm to the space provided by correspondence. But correspondence and time, while they seem, as I say, like constants, even constants have an end. And everything, no matter what pace of rhythm it provides, is ticking slowly downwards. That takes us to entropy. Mira, please.
Well, entropy is probability and inevitability. If prime is the loom, then entropy is the thread, with everything being continually rewoven, and it holds everything together.
The thing that tears us apart also holds us together. We are digging deep here for fundamental truths. And then the return. Everything taken apart by entropy, rendered down to prime, to quintessence. The stuff of reality and being that then flows out in this great, simple wheel, one thing leading directly into the other. And after those really terrific responses, would anyone like to take a stab at the most important thing about this diagram, this wheel here? Charlie?
It's the interrelationship. I think none of these entities, the pattern collapses if one is removed. They are all interdependent.
That is not the point I was looking for, but it's a very good one. Anyone else?
Well, it's all in a big circle, which is pretty cool.
Thank you, Carolyn.
No problem.
Well, perhaps I expect too much after teaching you all of this. The most important thing about this grand, elegant wheel where everything flows into the one next and everything travels in a circle over and over again, it's bollocks. It's a simplification to the point of uselessness. Charlie was close. Interdependence. If we look at it properly, it is not a wheel, it is an infinite web stretching out in every direction, everything strung together. Some of the sleepers call this quantum theory. Food for thought. Perhaps it's worth listening to them every once in a while. All right. I think the bell is about to ring. He's kind of checking his wristwatch. If I could have a few of you back for a second, please. Carolyn, Mira, Roth, Charlie. The rest of you can head off. Everyone but you four, presumably, stands to leave. Several of them give you kind of like measured glances of curiosity at why you're being asked to stay.
Don't worry, I'll see you later.
Will walks over to kind of behind a desk and starts kind of rummaging in some drawers, and you can hear kind of, other students are leaving lectures and classes further off in the corridors, and he's kind of rummaging around, looks up and says, "Oh, can one of you get the door, please? And the rest of you come up here. I'm not going to talk to you while you're over sat down there."
I'll get the door. Close it quietly.
Is everyone else kind of coming up to the desk?
Yeah, that was a cool lecture, man.
Well, I do my best, Carolyn. Thank you. I have... here we are. He kind of draws out something that looks like a kind of... basically like a floor map of the university, which is... There are many, many pages to it with a lot of kind of side notes and scrolls on it and asterisks about what door leads to another door. I have some field work, if you're interested. There's extra credits in it. Also, I'm thinking of instituting a dedicated study group. Doing well in this would put you first in the queue, if you were interested.
Charlie's eyes are lighting up.
I think... I don't know if this is an appropriate time to try and see the future and see if this is a good idea to accept this deal. But yeah, maybe I'll try and perceive if I feel like the rhythm calls me.
Sure. Before we get into that and our first magic of the session, what's Mira's response?
She's gonna look over from feeding Phil, who's her raven, who is perched on her shoulder, feeding him a little bit of corn or something, and just say, "Yeah, sure, we'll do it."
Okay, Carolyn, right, our first magic. Our first magic used in such a gratuitous way. How exciting. So, how getting glimpses of the future. So let's start. So you're trying to get just a glimpse of the future and a rough sense of whether this is a good idea or not to accept this.
Yeah, whether it seems like a good idea.
So clearly you're using the time sphere here.
Yes.
I guess the question is, given that it's a probability, would you also need to be using entropy?
Oh,
I'll open that to the floor. What does it say under time? Does any of it say specifically you can get glimpses of the future or anything?
I think it does. I probably should have the page open. 502. I believe glimpses of the future. Well, depends on if I'm influencing it, I think.
There's an argument here to be made for having correspondence too, given that your time may not allow you to see the future of yourself or this room, but not any space beyond that.
But the future of yourself might be enough for that, I think.
I also do have correspondence, but
past and future sight is level 2 by the look of it. Can look forward or backward through time. The impressions are fleeting, hazy, not entirely accurate, and bound by the limitations of that time and place. I think that's fine. I think you're looking at, if you're just looking at your own at like
Yeah.
your future and whether it would be good for you or not.
Yeah,
I don't think we need entropy. There's a question mark over whether we need life. I don't think we do.
I do have life, so I could use
Oh,
life
okay.
as well.
Well, that life 1 affects yourself, so yeah, that's fine. So let's just say you're gaining a glimpse into your future using time 2 and life 1, and this is magic in Mage, folks out there. It's extremely freeform and extremely intense all at the same time. So that is definitely coincidental magic. Are you using any tools or rituals or instruments in order to help you with this?
I don't think I want the professor to know that I'm trying to look into the future. So I think I want to keep it like very subtle.
Keep it very subtle. So
which
maybe
is the thing that means I can't really do my standard sort of
dancing and
yes,
stuff
moving
like that.
around.
Yeah, sure. I think that's absolutely fine. So it is coincidental magic, and the highest sphere you're using is time 2. So the base difficulty is 5. Yeah. Now you're not using any instruments or any kind of like instruments, whether they're physical things or like rituals you might do, like gestures or words, or you're dancing, for example. You're not doing anything like that. So you're working. It says working with unfamiliar instruments. Hang on. Using a personalized instrument. Okay. Working without usual instruments. So that's a +3. Oof. Basically.
So I'm at difficulty 8 at the moment.
Yes. I'm going to say that one of the reasons this university is where it is because there's a powerful node nearby. And with that, you are near a node. You're not right next to it, but it is a very powerful node. So I'm going to give that a -2, because plus is bad and minus is good, right?
So I'm now down to 6.
So you're now down to 6. Are you going to... I would also say you're fast casting, because you're just having on the spot and having to answer. So that's a +2. Are you... I think the only other thing we need to talk about is, are you spending any quintessence to help you?
Sure. I started on quintessence 3, so if I spent 1, I would reduce it by 1, right?
Correct.
Cool.
So where does that leave us? At +1 difficulty, I think, is where we settled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so. Difficulty 6.
Cool.
So now you roll your arete, which is 3, I believe.
3 dice, yeah.
Unless you want to spend any willpower for an automatic success.
Now let's leave it to
let it ride. Let it ride.
Sure. And I rolled a 1 success and a 1, so that is a failure.
That's just a failure. All that for a flat nothing. You try and grab kind of threads of the future with your mind, almost like a physical sensation as you reach out to touch them, but they turn to nothingness as you reach out and fade away. Unfortunately, a complete failure means there's no chance of paradox in any way. So,
well, that's
so
nice.
I'm afraid you're going to have to give a response without the help of seeing the future.
As is often the case, I look at the others, and then I'm like, yeah, sure. What's the worst that could happen?
I can imagine that there's been like a few seconds of them like.
Yeah, it just looks like I spaced out.
Sure. Absolutely. The professor is kind of waiting for your response and just goes, okay, yes. So this job, field work, that is, centered around business, both personal and with respect to the business of the 9 traditions. I have roots in a city in the US called Cincinnati. My sanctum is still there. Over the last 24 hours or so, certain devices in my possession have been triggered, let's say, a term that somewhat fits. Reality has shifted in a number of ways, alarms have been set off, and my monitoring systems are going a bit wild. Obviously, where we are, it's difficult to tap into earthly reports, but I've managed Dramovit enough to know that there are a number of dramatic events taking place in the city, or that have taken place. I need more information. If this makeshift cabal can go down to Cincinnati, pick up these devices, use them to locate the areas of disturbance and investigate them as best as you can. No need to do anything overly dramatic. Calm down flailing strands of reality if you can, but primarily it's a fact-finding expedition. Still interested?
Field repair, love it.
I suppose that's one way of looking at it.
Haven't been off the Chantry now for 2 years.
Yeah, it'll be nice to spread our wings, I guess.
Ville's just going to like look at you and like cock his head slightly at that expression. And so I'm just going to like just say, no, don't worry, she wasn't poking fun at you. Don't worry, it's fine.
That's
I've
fine.
never been to an American city.
I've got an amazing recipe for bird stew.
Cincinnati, that's the one with the arch, isn't
That's
it?
a joke. It's the one with the what? Sorry, Charlie?
The big arch over the city hall by the river.
Yes.
Oh,
I mean,
He found it better just to... Okay. If we're all in agreement about this, I can arrange for your transport. You've got maybe an hour or so before the window closes. There's a realm gate deep in the bowels of the university. I don't have... Just remember, it's in K6. Come meet me at K6 in about an hour. I suggest you take the time to grab anything you need from your rooms, and otherwise make some haste.
Professor, our extraction is assured. It's difficult to get to places like this from the surface.
There will be a conditional extraction. As long as you follow the instructions, you'll be fine.
And I assume...
If you're not fine, I'll come get you. It just might take me a couple of days.
Okay, I can live with that.
I assume our attendance will not be missed in our next few lessons.
As I say, I'll write it off as field work. It's fine.
Good.
Well then, that sounds good. Head off to your rooms, pick up what you need, and meet me outside K6.
cool.
Off you go.
Hey.
No, carry on.
As we walk out, I'll sort of be like, I go up to Mira and I'll be like, "Hey, I didn't mean to cause offense to your friend there."
Oh,
Hope
he's
so.
fine. He's just tetchy. I need to pick up some food for him.
He is a lovely parrot.
As you kind of walk out of the lecture hall, Will's voice kind of calls up from behind you. Oh, it's warm. It's summer. Remember that?
Thanks, Professor.
You walk out of the lecture hall and into, after just kind of turning a corner, the grand hall of Narentus University. And the grand hall is dominated at the front, the very front of the building, which has no door. But what it does have is a vast, elaborate window kind of set out in a circular style with tiers of glass running concentrically inside it. And out of that, a infinitely rolling blue sky with clouds underneath, Narentus University hovers, some say eternally, in the horizon realm of cloud, a bubble reality deep out within the spirit realm, where students can spend years, decades even, learning and eventually maybe even tutoring, like I say, hanging gently in an infinite sky. Or at least no one's ever explored it enough to say that it isn't infinite. And isn't that the same thing? Your rooms are in the dormitory section of Narentus University, which probably takes you about 10 minutes to get to. This is a very, very large building. And why don't we have an more of a clear introduction to our characters, and we can talk about, we can bring on their art and stuff like that. And why don't we start with talking about Charlie? Chris, why don't you give us a brief lowdown of Charlie? We'll pop up the art of him, and you can also tell us what Charlie's room looks like.
Charlie is very young. Charlie is about 18 years old, but he carries and looks like he couldn't be much more than 16. He's late flowering. Charlie's room is pure chaos, with lots of different lots of small and distinct objects and charts and symbols and lines, lots of diagrams of the university, specifically focusing on kind of the lower levels, the place where, I suppose, where the magic happens, the mechanisms that keep it afloat and the ancient spells that they're made of. Charlie enters his room and starts filling a bag with just lots of these little kind of handheld devices, like a sextant and a little protractor and a bale of thread and some needles, just all kinds of little odds and ends. He is wearing kind of fairly nondescript clothing, no kind of band t-shirts here, reminiscent maybe perhaps of clothes that he'd be okay getting grubby or greasy or dirty in. Carries himself and his little bag and clothes in a way that's both kind of perfectly modern, but looks like he may have also just finished shift at a factory in the 1800s. You can kind of look at him in both ways and interpret both kind of existences, like some kind of waif from the past.
Victorian street waif meets modern nerdy engineering student.
Yeah. No kind of technology or books on him, just all kind of physical objects, however.
Sure. And for anyone out there who is a fan of Mage, Charlie is a member of the Society of Ether. So let's move on from Charlie, and let's move on to Roth, please. John, why don't you give us a description of Roth, a description of his room, and what kind of things is he gathering for this field work?
Roth is a young-looking, lean man in maybe early 20s, who definitely, like, there's a lot of plaid, but it doesn't necessarily look like fashion, like not grunge plaid, like outdoorsman plaid. His room is fairly Spartan, with some decoration of like stag antlers that look like they've been fished out of a forest somewhere. Maybe a few pots of herbs in probably a magically artificial window so they can get good light, but in a room that doesn't actually face the outside.
Regardless of whether each of your rooms faces the outside structurally, it has a window to the outside.
Yes.
Which it's fine to open. There's air out there. It's just don't jump out unless you can fly, because you're falling forever.
Yeah, no. And Roth grabs a satchel and starts trying to pack maybe some clothes, and then pauses a moment, leans out round the corner to Charlie and asks, How warm is America in the summer? Because Roth grew up in a rough area of Germany.
I don't have a clue. I'm bringing clothes.
Right.
I'm loving that Roth just said America as well. No
Not
difference
cloistered
between
at
Alaska
all.
and Hawaii.
No.
That is where Cincinnati is, though. I mean, let's be fair.
It's true. It is true.
How can one country have multiple weather systems in it? Doesn't make any sense. It's not up a mountain. It's just America.
Sure. So
Can we dock 1 point of correspondence from you for that?
I have no points of correspondence, so no.
So let's move on to our third mage. Let's introduce ourselves to Carolyn Zelrich, played by Pierre. So Pierre, Carolyn, can you describe her for us? Describe her room and what she's taking with her to Cincinnati.
Yeah, she's a fairly small, energetic. Well, like energetic in movement, but not energetic in how she talks or her demeanor. But yeah, she sort of fidgets around quite a bit. And her room is like, however much space there is, everything has been pushed to the side so that there is like an area in the middle that is empty and can be danced in. Is the basic idea. And she has like gathered a set of different mirrors, and she's doing like the the sort of like ballet style thing where you have like, you're trying to see how your movements are working in these various mirrors. She wears kind of somewhat colorful kind of sort of colorful kind of comfortable clothes that enable movement. That is the chief focus. And they also
casual.
and they also kind of are kind of flowy, and so so sometimes she wears like skirts and things that will move specifically with her.
Wherever she moves, there's like a trace behind her, sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly.
Adding to the movement, stretching it out.
And so she's packing all sorts of she's packing like ribbons and various kind of and like small mirrors, which are helpful for other aspects of her arts. And
did poi exist in the mid-90s?
I'm not sure.
Isn't that
I
prime
think
poi time?
that is
They
exactly.
definitely did. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have said early 2000s was prime poi time, but
okay,
sure, yeah.
I'm not sure how to verify this, and I don't want to make a bad call. I don't want to break the immersion, so we'll remain undefined on the poi levels. But yeah, so and she's packing all these things. She's packing also quite a few sort of like little bits of things to treat painful feet and like blisters and things like that.
Yeah. Plasters and salves and stuff. Yeah. No, yeah, sounds good. Cool. So let's go to our the final mage in our little cabal. Let's join Mira in her room. Mira, played by Holly. Can we move the image along there, please, John? What does Mira look like? What does her room look like? And what is she taking with her?
Yeah, so Mira is a young-ish woman, almost dressed entirely in black with a few bits of white. Very gothic looking. Almost always wears the exact same outfit of like faded black jeans and like a black vest top with some kind of black jacket over the top. Usually with a collection of random dangly things around her neck, so like little vials, little pendants with weird symbols on them, all sorts of stuff, and then a wide variety of like jewelry on fingers, like rings and bracelets and stuff like that. And usually, as in when not around sleepers, has her familiar, who's a raven called Phil, perched on her right shoulder, usually like pecking at her hair, trying to get her attention. Her room is, again, primarily black with a few bits of white. the blind is always closed. She probably installed the blind herself, and it's refuses to have daylight in there, lit only by candles which scatter the room.
Candles and sticks of incense.
Exactly, yeah. And she is taking with her the entire contents of the one bedside table that she has, and she's literally just going to take the drawer out, take a small knapsack and just empty it in there, close the knapsack up, and then go outside again. And then remember something, go back inside, put a hand under the bed and get a small bag of bird feed out, and then come back out again.
That sounds great, folks. Thank you so much. Very characterful building our cabal there. So let's this all sounds quite quick. No one seems to be kind of like, massively taking their time or worrying or looking around for anything in particular. So I'm perfectly happy for you to all be on time. Do any of you think it sounds like... Oh, Chris, you go.
I just had an idea, and I think Charlie would definitely do it. I'm going to go to the library and see if I can get a somewhat out-of-date tourist guidebook for Cincinnati.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you've got time to do that. You might be running a little later than the others, but yeah, sure. Let's do that. Does anyone else want to go try and do anything in the time you have left? I think you've got time to. K is a floor that's quite deep down. Because basically the Great Hall is on the ground floor, and everything above that is a numbered floor, and everything below that is a lettered floor. So I can't immediately off the top of my head, I can't figure out what number K is in the alphabet. 14-ish?
12?
12.
Wait, N is 13. I don't know.
It's a large number of floors down from the ground floor, as it were. Yeah, is there anything else anyone else wants to do? I'll give you this as a freebie. If you don't have anything you picture you might want to do, you might want to try and briefly see if you can briefly meditate at the node of the university and gain a little bit of quintessence. Because that would probably be handy, and you have no idea when you'll next have access to a node. So
yeah, I definitely go and do that.
You will do that. I think I had nods from everyone but Chris there, because Charlie's going for the thing.
I think if we're going on a journey, my first urge would probably be slightly more mundane. And I would go to either the school canteen or the kitchens and try and get an amount of...
Try and scare up some consumables.
Yeah,
sure, absolutely. I think everyone only has time for one thing, so we'll run with what we've got. Chris, we'll go for you first. Roll library use. No. So if you're looking for a book, yeah, that's going to be, I'd say intelligence plus research, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
And see how you do. Just standard difficulty, just the old 6, and see how you do.
That's one success.
Yeah, I think that's enough. It's not like you don't find it. Tell you what, you don't find a guidebook, but in a battered old corner of the very large library, which is essentially kind of it's under a dome, almost on the very top of the university, a kind of big grand glass dome. Glass in panels of various styles. Like some of them are like frosted glass, some of them are perfectly clear, some have designs etched on them, some of them have those, those kind of concentric, I don't know if they have them in other countries, but those kind of concentric, like the panels you get in doors that have like sort of concentric wave-like things, you can't really see through them, like all different panels like that. But because the Cloud Realm is one of endless daytime and light, it's extremely well lit, and you make your way around the shelving units until you find a little sort of slightly more ragged corner of the library that just has what is essentially a very, very large box or crate full of like A to Z roadmaps for every city on planet Earth.
Nice.
And you rummage around there and luckily find Cincinnati within 10 minutes or so. So you can definitely head off with that. In terms of those people who are meditating at the node, so the node at the university is right at the core, at the center, where essentially there is a huge hollow cylinder leading down to the cloud realm itself, and clouds kind of via, whether it's by magic or some kind of like natural physical mechanism, kind of rise up and flow through a very large again, it's a dome, but like an internal one, where just the old stone surrounds this cylinder, and mages wander around or meditate or sit and talk quietly on stone benches of this interior space that's lit both from the light coming up from this hollow cylinder out into the clouds and from bracketed torches on the wall. And the closer you get to where this cloud funnels upwards, the more you can feel the quintessence, the energy kind of wash over you, a clean, pure sensation that quite naturally leads you to a state of serenity. However, you're doing this in a rush, so we are going to roll for it. And also you will be, well, we'll get to that in a second, but why don't you both give me a is there a regular roll for meditating at a node? Is there like a one we should be using? I don't think there is. So what I'm going to say is, what do we think? What attribute do we think would pair with trying to meditate quickly? Almost the opposite of wits. Probably intelligence, I think. Like having the wherewithal to know how to calm yourself.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, it's kind of an intuitive...
To internalize, like, quickly. Perception and wits are almost like a counter attribute, I think.
Well, I was going to suggest, I don't know, if perception, an ability of perception is turning your perception inwards.
Sure. But I've changed my mind again, and I'm going to ask for something else, because I think you're trying to manipulate yourself into calming. So I'm going to go with manipulation plus meditation.
That's such a good roll for me.
I think you've meditated this node loads, so you're very used to the rhythms of it and how to maybe draw power from it. So I'm going to say it's only difficulty 5.
Okay. So my manipulation is 1. My meditation is 3. So I will roll my 4 dice.
Yeah. And don't forget your willpower spending if you want 2 successes from Holly. That sounds good.
I will not spend my willpower. 1 success.
Okay. I'm going to want 1 success from this. As I say, it's a node you've drawn power from before. And we'll get in a minute to kind of a description of how you might... how that meditate. I suspect I know how Carolyn meditates. But you'll gain some quintessence from the node, and that quintessence you can gain is your avatar background. So however many points you have in avatar is how many points of quintessence you can drain from a node in one go. And I'm happy for you to just do your maximum for the sake of this. So it looks like Carolyn has 3 points of quintessence drained. And is it the same for you, Holly? Yeah. Good. That's plenty of points.
Perfect.
Carolyn, I know what the answer is, but why don't you tell us how you meditate?
Yeah, so I start counting, and then as I'm like counting to 8, and then I start doing a extremely sort of like repetitive series of movement, like dancing movements, basically. And as I gradually get into the rhythm, I sort of lose where I am entirely, and I focus entirely on the dance, and that is how I meditate.
Sure. I'd say you probably don't notice, but nearby you, there's maybe like an older, more traditional Order of Hermes mage who's kind of knelt on the ground, maybe with his arms down, like a big. He's an old guy, but he's a big buff guy as well. But he's wearing like these very elaborately designed, old-fashioned red and gold trim robes, and a kind of a beard that touches the ground. And as you start kind of counting and making some noise, even if you're quite quiet with it, anyone nearby, but probably not Carolyn herself, will notice him briefly kind of going.
I definitely will not notice.
Yeah, returning to his meditation. Mira, how does Mira meditate?
Usually either she's doing just like quiet sitting reading a book, Or what I think she'll be doing on this occasion is going through a variety of martial art forms. It's probably not a singular style. It's probably like a weird combination of like judo and like Muay Thai, but then also throwing in a bit of yoga and Tai Chi.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, it's
real
not really a singular thing.
a concoction of your own development. Sure,
I
absolutely.
like this.
So let's go to Roth and see what role you can make to scavenge up some supplies from the kitchens, from the canteen, and that's definitely going to be a wits roll, I think. Plus, I think survival.
Yeah.
Let's go with wits plus survival.
Okay. I'm rolling 7 dice with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, 4 successes.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? You find, let's just say you find on a table a big box, and the box is full of kind of like as was the times of the 90s. It's full of power bars. It's full of kind of, packed kind of nut bars and raisins and sultanas and chewy cereal stuff. Something you might appreciate as someone out in the wild. Stuff, it'll keep you full and give you energy and stuff like that. It's a big open box, and you can see a load of them have been taken already. And it has a sign, like a piece of paper, pinned to the front of it that just says "Free to anyone. I made them!" ! They look like commercial power bars in that they have like brands you recognize on them.
I was going to say, are they in like a plastic packet?
No, they didn't make them like that.
Oh.
Whoever it was conjured them into existence.
Okay.
Probably as an experiment or a test or something as part of their learning. And they have no need for 1,000 power bars. So they have... Or potentially is just a side product of Paradox.
Paradox backsplash, excessive fiber.
But you can, like, if you want, you can open it up. They look and smell and taste fine. So,
okay, I'll take probably a few handfuls. I'm not going to just dump the box out in my bag because I couldn't. And also, I believe in take what you need and leave for the rest. But definitely like a couple of meals worth for each of us.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm going to be the only one who thought of food. I know it.
Paradox has transformed an unfortunate mage into 1,000 power bars.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I made them brackets out of Steve. So let's randomly pick a name from the Telling Tales crew. Not that Steve, different Steve. You wouldn't like that Steve. So I take it we're all making our way as fast as we can to K6 by this point. Okay, let's have rolls to see how fast we manage to navigate the university to get there. That's going to definitely be a wits roll, and let's combine that with just alertness will do, I think. You know what? Your choice of alertness or investigation. Just a difficulty 6. Getting these nice 2 from Charlie, 4 from Mira, 1 from Roth. How's Carolyn doing? 0 successes.
A botch.
Is it an actual botch?
It is an actual botch. It is 5, 4, 3, 2 ones. It's like a double botch, if that were even possible.
Sure, absolutely. So let's say, who rolled the 4? Was that Roth? No, that was Mira. Mira, you easily arrive first. And let me describe for you. You have to go down many stairs in order to reach the sort of... I mean, it's beyond being called a basement because half of the building is a basement by that terms. But it's certainly a very low floor. And it's a floor that roughly resembles a huge rambling boiler or furnace room. with the noise of clanking and hissing machinery always just out of sight, a grated metal corridor floor that leads off onto many smaller rooms, lit by a misty orangish light that shines up through the grate softly. As you round a corner, you can see that the professor is just walking himself up to a door labeled K6, and he turns around and says, Mira, very, very prompt. Thank you very much. Are the others with you?
No, but I'm sure they'll be along.
I'm sure they will. He's going to kind of hum to himself and check things in his pockets unless you want to make any particular conversation until the others turn up.
No. Are we like going into the room?
He is standing outside the door. Seemingly.
Okay, if we're just waiting outside, I'm literally just within the first maybe minute, I'm just going to get out a small like leather-bound book out of my bag and literally just sit on the floor leaning against the wall.
Absolutely, sounds good. So it's only a couple of minutes later when Charlie rounds the corner, the professor kind of looks up and sort of gives you a smile and a small wave and carries on kind of rummaging through his pockets. Any kind of interaction you want?
I suppose once I've settled down for a minute, I'm actually going to start taking stock of my surroundings and maybe checking over some of the local infrastructure.
So a few minutes later, Roth, you arrive. The professor is looking slightly impatient at this point, but not too much, and says, you haven't seen Carolyn, have you, Roth?
No.
There's a certain time frame in which this requires itself to be. Carolyn, you are lost. It has been several minutes since you saw the label of a floor, and now you find yourself in a large kind of empty room full of what appear to be boxes of violins.
And like my sense of time is fantastic. I know exactly how late
you are. Yeah. Sure. You start to feel a slight tugging on yourself as if magic is being worked upon you. Do you want to resist it?
I don't think so. I could probably guess that this might be a professor using magic on me. Can I in fact, well, I guess it's working an assumption, but like, can I assist it in any way?
No, definitely not. Okay. But if you're not resisting, then you will feel yourself kind of almost like a lurching to the side, as if you just briefly lose your balance, and then you are standing in front of room K6 with the others. Professor Cray is holding like a kind of slightly sci-fi-ish like device, but like a very boring looking sci-fi-ish device in his hand, like a sort of tablet that he's sci-fi tablets that he's sort of tapping on, and anyone nearby enough to see, maybe Charlie might want to look because it's sort of technologically and interesting looking. There's a flashing thing on the screen that says target acquired, and he kind of presses a thing to tick a box and tucks it into one of the large pockets of his tweed jacket and says, find something interesting or just got lost?
Oh man, there were some really nice violins.
Right.
Is there really any
we
such
haven't
thing
even
as
got
lost?
there, and
we haven't even
got there, and you're already resorting to violins. I can't believe it.
Well, the three of you keep an eye on this one. I'm sure you have your particular areas of influence, Carolyn, but please try and focus on the matter at hand. So here we are by room K6, which I'm sure none of you have never found your way in before. There are certain protocols to gaining access to this room. I do not give them away lightly, and I did not request their use lightly. So please don't go around telling other students about what might be found in here and how it might be used. I would appreciate that. I have some gifts of a sort. He rummages around in his pockets again and holds out in his hands 4 objects. They are a mug, a postcard, a small towel, and a pen, all of which say on them in large bold letters, "I heart Cincinnati."
I love it.
I will. So one's a towel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll grab
Like
that.
small, like a dish towel.
Okay. But like, yeah, okay, I'll grab that one. And oh, thanks, man. I could do with one of these, and I'll sort of, scurry it away.
I think I'll if the professor is kind of beckoning for us to take some without any further and like explanation, I'm going to actually. I think I'll pick up the mug.
Sure.
I'll go
go
for the
into
pen
my
then.
bag.
And I'll take the postcard and also have a look at Cincinnati, I'm assuming. Does it have a picture of Cincinnati on
No,
it?
just the front says "I heart
I
Cincinnati"
heart.
in exactly the same way that the others do.
Hmm.
I didn't actually consciously do this, but it's done in this kind of style. They're all like with that kind of thing. I'm gonna say, who has Prime 1? Just Chris. Chris, you know this. You can kind of sense it lurking within this physical form, but he kind of gestures to the objects he's given you and says, "Those are all TAS. Do with them what you will. They should give you a bit of a boost. Obviously, don't try to lose them. Feel free to hang on to them if you come back with them, but they're not inconsiderable to come up with. So please don't waste them." Well, I'd say which one of you is the most trustworthy, but that question seems to have been answered for me. He roots around in an inside pocket of his tweed jacket and brings out a pair of cheap-looking plastic tourist sunglasses, which he hands to Mira.
Okay, I'll take them slightly quizzically and then just like look through them.
You look through them. Everything looks, darker, obviously, but perfectly normal. Those they will be the only way to find the transport back. Just go back to where you came from, but unless you have those on you, well, you're going to be stuck for a while until I can come get you. And remember, no later than approximately 6 hours after you arrive, or you won't be readmitted without, having to. You don't need to know. It's complicated. I've also arranged for the devices I mentioned. My devices, yes, the alarms. From my sanctum, they will be delivered to you at this address. He holds out a little card with an address written on it, again to Mira.
Okay, cool. I'll take those 3 and put them in the side pocket of the knapsack that I'm wearing.
Yes, I would head there first. You won't be able to get very far without the devices. They should lead you more or less where you want to go. Carry out your investigations, solve any issues you can find if they seem within your reach. But don't endanger yourselves. Well, maybe endanger yourselves a little, otherwise where's the fun? But ultimately, fact-finding, first and foremost. Any questions?
No problem.
I'm all
Good
good.
stuff. Good stuff. All right. He reaches out and turns the door handle of room K6, and it swings open, and he says, "Off you go then. I will see you in a few hours. Or a couple of days. Either way."
Step through with quizzical confidence. Childlike glee, maybe?
So, room K6 has opened to reveal a somewhat nondescript room where the only thing in it is standing free in the center of the room is an old, battered-looking brass frame elevator. It does not look sturdy.
Oh, this looks like Society of Ether stuff. Go and give it a closer examination.
Sure. Kind of. The professor closes the door behind you as the last of you enters. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna head up and just like have a quick look at the elevator and just like lightly put one foot on it just to check that it's holding weight.
Sure.
And then head in. Yeah.
To do that, you'll definitely have to, like, it's got one of those. I was trying to struggle for the words earlier when I was writing my notes. It's not a door. It's like it slides aside.
The shutter thing.
Yeah, like a shutter. Thank you. Like a mesh, a thin brass mesh shutter of kind of flat interlocking things that you have to kind of like drag to one side. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And if you are in fact trying to do that, it is in fact so tough that I'm going to ask you for a roll to see if you can heave it to one side.
Sure.
And that will be strength plus athletics, I think. It's only going to be difficulty 6, but still, it's enough.
Not Mira's strong suit, this one.
Sure. What, the young student goth, not a power lifter?
Yeah, but nevertheless, 2 successes, 9 and a 10. Lovely.
Maybe a power lifter.
You have to you kind of press it at first and it just doesn't kind of budge, and then you kind of set yourself against the ground and heave, and with a kind of like a series of unhealthy sounding clicking noises, it wrenches over to one side. You can indeed put your foot on it and press down, and it kind of moves a bit side to side, but it doesn't kind of like go down. Now that you've got the shutter over to one side, you can see that you can't see too much. It's thin enough that you can't really see, but there is an elevator shaped hole in the floor directly under the elevator.
Okay, yeah, I'm stepping on. I'm assuming that there's like an old-fashioned lever on one side.
Absolutely, there is one thing in the elevator. You can see out of all sides of it, it's worth saying. Like, the frame has big gaps in it, so you can kind of see all around. There is one thing in it, which is a large brass lever labeled down.
Okay, yeah, I'll step on and just put one hand on the lever and just wait for everyone else to get in.
Sure. Charlie, did you want to actually roll anything for your investigations of this elevator?
I do. I'm going to actually open my little satchel. I'm going to take out a magnifying glass and like a makeshift pendulum, which is just like a bolt with a piece of string tied around it, and kind of hold it up and watch it, and then next to the structure, and bring the magnifying glass up and take a really close look at how it's moving and how it's being pulled by the forces. And I will be using my prime to get a good read on exactly kind of the nature of this and who built it,
how
and
powerful it is, and like, yeah.
And not just that, but kind of, I think Prime 1 lets me do this, and it says maybe and can kind of get, but I'm going full hog here. I'd like to know if this is aetherite in construction, or I'd like to know as much about the person who built it as possible. So
would we say that's like Prime 2 or something like that?
Yeah. Prime 2, Prime 3. It's definitely in the territory of Prime.
You've got
Prime
matter,
2,
right?
Yes, I've matter 1.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah, you just need to be.
Oh no, shit! No, I've matter 0. I have matter 0. I apologize. But I do have correspondence 1, and given this is an object that is in a place, I am going to.
Or you're looking
I'm
for
going full mage here. This is
no,
what I love
We're
most
not
about
using
mage.
wordplay to get around the rules. Do we need? We kind of do, I think, unfortunately.
Do the Etherites have a place where they are from? Could you be trying to identify like
Victorian
where this
London?
came from, literally? But like, if you could get like a sense that it came from the literal physical location of the Aetherites.
Specifically as written on the book, what it gives me is the resonance, a really good fingerprint on the resonance. Now, that can be a vague idea that it's dynamic or it's static, or it can be it's Dave's resonance. He casts a spell.
So I'll say I'm going to slightly limit the information you get for not having matter 1. I won't tell you anything about like the construction of the thing or what it may be actually like directly composed of, but you can still get a read on like its purpose and things like that from just using the prime. So
given that it's also clearly a correspondence effect that this thing is probably going to use on us, I think using correspondence here is a fair kind of
weight on the lever. And it will maybe give you, then maybe you'll get more information about that, but not about like the making of the thing and like what it's made up of and stuff. I think that's fair. So okay, let's see then. So what level of prime did you say you reckon it fit?
Well, if we're setting difficulty, it's always the highest, so it's 3.
It's the highest used. That doesn't mean it's always.
Oh, okay. Well, let's call it prime.
If you're using a lower
prime
effect, it's easier. So
yeah.
So sorry, what level did you say?
Prime 2, I think is what I'll be using.
Prime
it's
2.
Prime 1. Prime 1 is for the very general information. I'm aiming for the more specific.
For more specific information, sure. Okay, so that's Prime 2, and I think just Correspondence 1 is fine because you're just sensing, direction and space. So with that in mind, you're definitely using instruments, so that's fine. It's definitely coincidental, so that's highest sphere +3. So that would be 5 difficulty, right? Or did we say you're using Prime 2? So that's 5 difficulty. Let's have a quick look at the good old modifiers that we have here.
I'm not fast casting. I am near a node.
You are near a node, absolutely, and you're not fast casting. So I'm going to move you down to difficulty 4 for being near the node. You're using a personalized instrument, so I'm going to move you down to 3. I don't think it can go lower than 3.
Can't go anywhere.
No lower than 3, but yeah, go for it. I don't think there's any malices.
So. A delightful 3 successes on an 8, an 8, and a 10.
Okay. This is a entirely magically constructed horizon gate. This is not a naturally occurring thing. This has been built and placed here. It's not tremendously powerful. It doesn't have a lot of enchantment woven around it. It's very functional, and it takes you to basically several different places, largely dependent on where you expect to go.
And can you tell me a little about who made it? Tradition.
It's almost certainly a Society of Ether construction.
Nice.
You can feel like that kind of flavor, that resonance all over it, as if you couldn't be told that by that it's a frayed brass elevator. You should just be surprised it doesn't have, like, I don't know,
Society of Ether written on top,
but some kind of steam coming from somewhere and a gauge
exactly
pressure on it. I will get on the platform and kind of remark. This is definitely aetherite. Very nice. It's an artificial horizon gate. You don't see these. Well, you do, but you don't see them hidden away.
Like, I definitely feel reassured, and I follow.
And I was waiting to make sure Carolyn wouldn't go missing, so I also step on the elevator.
Sure. So everyone is aboard now. I'm assuming, Mira, we're...
Yeah, pull the lever.
Okay, well, the lever moves a lot easier than the door did. No one has mentioned they shut a door behind them, though. Is anyone going to do that as the elevator starts moving?
I'd definitely make sure that the grates shut.
Sure, yeah. You shut the door behind Roth, who I think was the final one on, and as soon as the lever is pulled, the elevator judders to a slow start before descending through the floor. And despite Kay not being quite far from the lowest floor of the university, you immediately find yourselves out in the open clouds of the near infinite horizon realm, with the university visible but rapidly retreating above you. You are moving downwards. Obviously, there's no cables on this. You are just gliding downwards slightly jerkily through the clear open sky of the horizon realm, with the vast ocean of clouds slowly slowly at first and then much faster kind of rising towards you, at which point before long you sink into the soft damp bed of clouds and rattle through there for what feels like several minutes. And as that's happening, Are we having any conversation? Perhaps we haven't really had a concerted conversation between us, or are we doing something while this journey is underway?
A bit of flavor text, I think. What do you make of Professor Craig going through the entire cyclical model and then calling it rubbish? I don't know if I like him or I hate him.
Oh, he's got his own little style, you know.
Like, I know the model's out of date, but yeah, but I suppose all the professors are. But like, you don't rubbish them. And it's an out of date model, but you don't just go calling it trash. I didn't complain that this isn't an Otis.
Oh well,
call it what it is. If it's outdated and it doesn't work and it's not what everyone says it is, then you might as well call it nonsense.
Speaking of stuff that's outdated, this would make a good project if we could get some seniors to help. We could modern this thing up a bit.
I do not rate our chances of getting any professor's permission with that.
Do any of you guys know if Will's usually as secretive as he seemed to be when he was describing what we're getting up to and why we're being sent?
Would now be is there any way I could do a politics roll to see if I can figure out what the position of Professor Cray is in the kind of meta in the drama of
absolutely.
Facility life?
Mage colleges are overflowing with politics, frequently deadly. They're kind of, a cross between Game of Thrones and an Unseen University. Your university is actually mild as they go, with very few mages challenging each other to Certamen, which is essentially dueling. But there's still, there's always going to be some element of it. Yeah, sure. Why don't you give me a intelligence plus politics roll? And we'll make this difficulty 7.
That's 2 successes.
So Professor Gray has been at the university for about 10 years now. This, of course, makes him a newbie as far as most of the staff are concerned. It's, like I say, it's an old-fashioned place that's trying to embrace newness, which is probably why a virtual adept like Professor Gray has risen relatively high on the on kind of the order of staff. But still, he's bound to have some people who aren't keen on him, or maybe even some enemies among the faculty. It's certainly not unusual for members of the faculty to do things secretively. But like, if what he described is correct, then he doesn't have any more information. That's why you're going. But like, he seemed, on the one hand, he said he did have some personal stakes in this. It's where his sanctum is. He says he has roots in Cincinnati. But equally, if there is trouble and reality has been rent in several places or ways in the city, that is a matter for investigation. So,
they're all secretive, the professors. Cray's weird. He's one of those computer people. It's all a bit not something I've wrapped my head around. But I don't know. I think he's just sending us on a personal errand because he doesn't want to turn his back on the place for too long.
Fair enough.
Either way, we get some credits.
Either way, we get credits, and I have not been back on the planet for many years.
Yeah. By the way, there haven't been like loads of other field trips that have gone missing or anything like that?
Oh yeah, did I not mention that? Yeah.
It's not like field trips happen all the time, and like
300 students have gone missing over the last month, all in Cincinnati. No,
okay, cool.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah, people usually return.
Like, students get sent on little tasks to places quite often.
Yeah,
so it's
and
possible.
They come back is what I'm asking.
Yeah. But I mean, by and large, some of it's dangerous, but like, by and large, yeah.
Cool.
So as you're having this kind of conversation, the clouds around you you start to lose the light a bit as it struggles to penetrate down into the eventual denseness of the clouds. But then other lights start to appear. Gentle greenish and orangish glows start to appear through the cloud as if kind of in the near distance. And even further away, odd noises that sound a bit like warping metal and deep sonorous explosions start up. These gently but assuredly start rising, both in intensity of the light and the intensity of the sound. And the elevator is reacting accordingly to this building cacophonous crescendo. And the brass frame of the elevator is rattling a fair bit, it has to be said.
Is everything okay, Charlie? Is this normally what sort of happens?
That's a great question. I'd like to check if everything's okay. I think it's within. I can re-roll the earlier roll to see if this pattern is working the way it should, or if there's.
But you know what? I'll actually knock that down because I think you'll only have to use prime 1 for that because you're detecting something you've already examined. So let's go with that, which leads you to a difficulty of 4. Shall we call it difficulty 5 again? But you're fast casting.
Yeah, I think the pressure of the situation would make that.
I think so. Oh, and you're not near a node anymore.
Not near a node, yeah.
That's difficulty 6 then. But I'm assuming you're still using your instruments to.
Yeah, still examine. Using the instruments.
Difficulty 6 then, please.
Okay, let's try it. Oh, 3 successes.
As far as you can tell, everything is functioning correctly. There is no kind of you can sort of reach out and feel kind of the tendrils of reality that the device is manipulating, running through it. And you can't help but maybe unconsciously envision the strings that Professor Cray was alluding to in those mortal theories. And it all seems to be, it's essentially, you almost feel like there's this flow of quintessence directed through this thing, that it's like an elevator is on cables. This is traveling on the rails of prime energy, and everything, as far as you can tell, seems fine.
Yeah, it's 5 by 5. We're fine. It's just a bit of a spicy effect.
And speaking of that spicy effect, after Charlie speaks those words, it only gets worse and worse. The screeching of tortured metal is coming closer and rising in pitch higher and higher until the entire elevator is bouncing back and forth. The nearby explosions seem to be directly affecting the elevator and yourself, and all of you are being pitched about slightly.
I don't like this.
The screeching is causing the brass frame to vibrate, and the brightness and rapidity of the flickering light through the mist reaches an uncomfortable fever pitch.
I really don't like this.
I'm going to ask each of you if you have a choice here. So each of you can try and focus on centering yourself and not being disturbed by the noises and the flashing lights, or you can focus on not being bounced around the framework of this cage. It's entirely up to you.
I'm focusing on not bouncing around. I'm freaked out by this. There's nothing I can do about that.
Anyone else for the bounce around defense?
I'm okay to bounce around. I think I am absolutely enthralled by the mechanisms of this thing's transference.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm good. I'm not gonna bother about bouncing around. I'm just trying to focus on drowning that out, but also trying to protect Phil's senses as well.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, the Raven is kind of got his head buried in your hair, and he's just kind of cawing in protest. Roth, how about you?
Yeah, I think I have been assured that this is how things are supposed to work, so surely bouncing around a bit won't be too bad for me. So I'm going to try and.
So we're all just trying to maintain focus against the sounds and the lights and try and maintain. Okay. Oh no, sorry, Caroline, you said you were going to try and stop bouncing around. So In that case, Carolyn, let's have a roll from you first. Can you give me a your choice of strength and or dexterity plus athletics to kind of like keep yourself like held in place in the frame?
I'll go for dexterity and athletics, which is 7 dice in total.
Ooh.
So I'm assuming it's a normal difficulty.
No, let's say difficulty. I think it's difficulty 7.
Difficulty 7. Okay. Oh, and that would explain something. I was rolling D6s previously.
That's why you got the terrible result.
Anyway, it's happening now. 10, 10, 9, 7. So that's 4 successes.
Wow. Yeah, you are steady as a rock there. Really, really quite kind of fixed in one place. But you know what? Your eyes, you're kind of clenching them shut and just kind of willing away the sensory battering that's happened to you. Can you just lose a temporary point of willpower, please? Because it's going to leave you pretty frazzled to come through this without kind of defending yourself against that. And the others of you, let's see how you do with bracing yourself against that sensory assault. So let's have a roll, please, of wits plus probably meditation, in all honesty. So wits plus meditation, that's going to be a difficulty 7 as well.
Ooh, fail.
Okay. How do you do, Holly?
That's a botch.
With our new style of roll,
I didn't roll above a 6, and I got a 1.
Okay. So yeah. Well then, let's go through this one by one. So Charlie, you succeeded, correct? Yep, that's absolutely great. You kind of center yourself against the noise and the overstimulation. But however, you do owe me a stamina roll, please. Just a normal soak stamina roll. 2 successes. Yeah, that's fine. You jostle yourself around a bit, but you don't feel too banged up by the situation. Roth, let's go with you. You failed, so you feel exactly as Carolyn does. You lose a temporary point of willpower, and you also need to give me a stamina roll, please.
Okay. I only have 2 stamina, so... Ooh, 2 successes.
Yeah. Again, you feel definitely jostled, but absolutely fine. And Mira, we're just going to go with... well, let's start with your stamina roll, shall we? So just a regular old stamina roll, please.
2 successes.
Yeah, absolutely fine. You are jostled around, but feel no lasting damage from it. Another way, I think we're just going to go with a simple option for the botch here. Tell me how you try to center yourself and ignore the sensory thing. And if you want, either I will tell you how it doesn't work, or you can tell me how it doesn't work as well. But how have you messed up so badly in this task?
I am, in order to try and drown out the sound, going to start humming to myself a 9 Inch Nails song.
Sure. What we all use to make ourselves calmer and less anxious.
Oh, yeah.
It's 1995, so you've just got wall-to-wall classics to pick from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know what? You do that, and like, then you remember the lyrics, and you're like, oh, like it cuts too hard, man, too hard.
Was Downward Spiral out by 95?
Oh yes.
Yep.
94. So yeah. In the corner, Mira is just kind of singing the words to Hurt, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help anyone. Just lose 2 temporary points of willpower. I think that works pretty well.
I think if I see sort of Mira kind of wailing in this way, I think I will like try and like hold out my hand and like, you know, I'll be like try and offer support in whatever way I can.
Absolutely. So what happens as you ride through this cataclysm after what may be seconds or hours? Everything rises to an absolute peak and then stops completely. At this point, I think it's safe to say all of you are kind of braced in place with your eyes screwed shut and slowly start blinking and opening your eyes, the elevator is moving its way down an elevator shaft.
Ooh, what a rush. Ooh,
Is it over?
seems so. Welcome to the desert of the real.
Oof. I don't want to get on an elevator anymore.
That's anachronistic, Chris. Matrix isn't out for another 4 years.
Yeah, that's where I got it from.
It was inspired. It like that line was then used by the people who made the Matrix later.
Yeah, what we don't realize that the Kháos are standing right behind us.
In the elevator.
That's the plot twist.
Wondering what's going on, yeah.
So, after about 30 seconds longer, the elevator shaft is just featureless kind of grimy metal. The elevator slowly grates to a halt on what seems to be a long, musty corridor. It has many numbered wooden doors leading off it, and at the very end of it, which is quite a way away, is it seems to end in either a room or a door or something. There is a dusty, slightly ragged and faded red carpet on the floor, and the walls are cheap wood paneling.
I guess let's go. And I sort of step out.
Myra, you have the address, don't you?
Yeah, I'm going to get the little address thing out of the side pocket of my knapsack and then just read out where we're supposed to be going.
Sure. And I guess, Chris, you're going to look it up as you trudge along the corridor, you're going to look it up in this A to Z street guide you've got?
Yeah, try and figure it out. If it's proving difficult, I'll try a correspondence one trick. But
no, you're looking up something on a map. You don't have to use magic for that. As I'm assuming everyone is just striding forward and making their way down this corridor as much as they can. The first thing to notice, a number of the doors, they're all numbered, although they seem to be in a completely random order. There are things as you proceed alongwards that lead you to a certain conclusion. The first is a do not disturb sign hanging on a door. The next is a notice for customers to please ring bells in the rooms for direct service. And partway down the corridor is what seems to be an abandoned trolley full of cleaning supplies. It seems to have been there for a very long time. Any of you who are raised in America are pretty sure some of these brands of cleaning fluid were bankrupt and the companies folded decades ago. As you move forwards, there's no one visible in the long corridor, but there are soft sounds on the edge of hearing, especially when you're walking past most rooms. A gentle cough here, the shuffling of feet on carpet there. Occasionally odder sounds break out, like the rolling of distant waves and the crackling of some kind of discharge. About halfway down, you all walk past a door gently closing, and a stern-looking tall man in the clothing of a Catholic priest aims a disapproving stare at you as he shuts it with a click.
What is this place? Some kind of cursed hotel?
I was about to ask, what is this place? And also I would like to try and figure out what's going on, Matt, just in terms of if this is like all one place or if the doors are leading off to various different other areas.
I would definitely say as you walked past the man who was dressed as a priest's room, you did get a glimpse of the room behind him, and it did just look like a kind of faded, battered hotel room.
Okay, so okay.
But are you going to employ magic in some way to try and determine something about this place?
No, it's all right. I'll leave it for now.
Okay.
Could I use? Well, yeah. I was just wondering if I could use time to detect how old the place is.
Like you can use your eyes for that.
Nah, fair. So it looks like maybe 50 years, right?
Yeah, like it's an old. It definitely looks like an old hotel, decades old. Yeah,
It's not like
Like
200 years though.
no. It looks like, kind of early to mid 20th century, kind of the architecture and stuff like that. Looks to be that. Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Let's just get out. It's been so long since I've had a good breathful of pollution.
As you near the end of the corridor, and there is another noise from one of the rooms, a disturbingly piercing laugh that goes on and on as you walk up to the room and past it until it breaks off in a sudden gasp for air. It's not intended as a story seed, it's just flavor. Before we get sidetracked into an investigation into the laughing.
You're literally putting
If
us
anyone
into a
did
corridor.
try and open the door, it doesn't open. So you can say if you do that or not.
You've literally put us into an entire supermarket full of chickens in cages here.
I know. Which is why I felt the need to state that that's not a breadcrumb,
Just kind of, I'm going to pick up my pace. I'm a little bit disturbed by this. This is not how hotels normally
it's
work.
not nice.
Yeah, let's get out of here quicker.
Sure. You find yourself at the end of the corridor. It simply ends in a door like all the others, but without a number. Anyone who tries the door can open it perfectly easily. Who would we say is at the front opening this door? Charlie seemed to be keen on getting out.
Yeah, I think so.
Sure. You open the door and find yourself blinking in the dawn sunshine of Cincinnati, emerging out into an alleyway that is filled with an appealing scent of cooking meat and vegetables. Is everyone else emerging out into the light of Cincinnati after this sort of darkened, musty corridor?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. All I'm going to say, it's up to you how quickly this happens. Basically, as soon as you stop looking at the door you've emerged from, the next time you look, it's not there.
Right.
Okay, that's a yikes from me. Where did that? I thought it was. Oh,
Hey,
I didn't even bother checking.
do those? If you, is Myra wearing the sunglasses or not?
No, I'm not wearing them at the moment. They're just in the side pocket of my rucksack.
Hey, is it gone or is it gone?
I mean, I can have a look through the sunglasses and
Yeah,
see if I can see anything, but
you can see the door, and more than that, you see a small little inset next to the door, like a little metal inset that has a little bell hanging from it with a chain and a little plaque saying "Ring for attention."
okay. Well, at least we know what these do now. I feel like it's a summer's day in Cincinnati.
It is. The sun is just coming up. If you want me to pinpoint a time for you, I can do that. It is, you'd say, around 6 o'clock in the morning if it's summer. I think Roth will be able to pinpoint that time without, like, it's a clear sky. You can see where the sun is. And if it's summer, it's probably about 6.
If the sun is out, Mira's immediately going to put some sunglasses on.
Sure, but not the magic
will
ones.
do. No, these magic ones will do.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Might as well keep wearing them, keep them on your head.
And you know what? I am going to roll a die now, Mira, because I didn't have it planned in my head. So I am going to plan out. Let's see if these cheap plastic sunglasses add a splash of color to Mira's wardrobe, shall we? Because rolling a die to see if you've ruined a goth monochrome presentation is what role playing is all about.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's go. I'm going to pick 5 colors: yellow, hot pink, like a kind of illish turquoise, white, and black.
Okay.
They are bright yellow.
Oh,
Like the frame is brightly yellow. The actual glass is dark, but like
they really work for you, you know?
that might actually weirdly work on a monochrome.
You know?
Sure. Yeah, these will do for now.
Sure. You are all very quick to identify where that very nice smell is coming from. At the opening of the alleyway as it leads out onto what looks like more of a main road of the city, which isn't hugely busy with traffic, but still has some cars going back and forth, is a large food truck that is labeled, like there's big signs along the side and that just say Cincinnati's finest chili. There's already a small queue of customers who glance with mild surprise at the group whenever you emerge from what's essentially a dead-end alley. Yeah.
Oh, that smells
And are we doing that? Are we proceeding towards the road?
Yeah,
I think I am.
I could
Do
do
we have a
chili.
rough idea of where we're going?
Absolutely. Charlie, you did find the location. It's somewhere in downtown Cincinnati. You just need to find where you are, and then you can make your way to it quite easily.
Sure.
I think I'll put on my most youthful, adorable face and maybe just get the attention of holding the map quite obviously. Go up to one of the people in the queue and go, "Excuse me, do you know what's the address here? The corner we're on."
Why don't you give me a charisma plus? I don't know.
Firearms.
Yeah. A charisma plus empathy. Let's just say empathy. I think empathy works for trying to get things out of people as well as go for a charisma plus empathy roll, difficulty 6. This person just wants their morning chili.
2 successes.
Yeah.
Is it in like a container?
The chili appears to be ladled onto hot dogs. And then various other toppings potentially put on top of that, it's in like a little styrofoam container sort of thing. It smells really good.
Yeah, I know. I want to go over and get some chili.
There's only a couple of people queuing at this time in the morning, so yeah, you could potentially get some chili. The woman who's in a kind of cheap looking business suit turns and says, "Oh, sure, yeah, you're here." She points on the map, and you are literally a couple of streets away from the address.
Thank you very much.
5-minute walk tops.
We're not from around here.
No kidding. She's kind of glancing between the rather disparate group with a brief focus, especially on the yellow sunglasses.
Ruined.
At this point, is the Raven, by the way, has he fluttered away to just perch on a nearby street light?
Phil's just going to be giving a quick flyby of just circling basically, just having a look at the surroundings.
Absolutely. Carolyn, so are you queuing to get some chili?
Do I have any money, or am I going to have to correspond?
Have you got any resources?
Chili dog.
Have you got any resources?
Have I got any resources? That is a very good question. No.
You do not have any money.
How bad would it be if I corresponded some chili into me or corresponded some money?
You are what we in the mage business call a paradox siren. You're like, oh, I could just go and buy some food after finding some money, or I could rend the very fabric of reality and explode myself.
Carolyn, it's not yours.
Oh, but it would be so nice. I clearly look like I'm about to do something, and then Roth's words definitely seem to have calmed me down, and I will just stand there next to someone who's eating just a delicious chili dog, and I'll just stare at it. A chili hot dog, and I will just stare at it mournfully.
Carolyn, come on, please. Let's let these people have the breakfast.
Okay. Just give me a moment.
I'll hand Carolyn one of the protein bars.
It's not
I'm sure that's just as good as a chili dog. Yeah, okay. Well, someone, a native of Cincinnati, requested that I include chili in this anthology series. So there you go. Maybe it'll make a comeback later. Maybe this chili van owner is actually the big bad. Who knows? So Are we simply making our way through the downtown streets of Cincinnati as the sun is coming up and it's getting a bit warmer? Are we just making our way through to the address we've been given, or are we doing anything else?
Carolyn, if you want to, if you're in the mood for stealing something that would be useful for us, could you grab a newspaper?
Yeah, sure.
I'm happy with you having enough random change on you to get a newspaper from a machine. That's fine, I think, between you.
Cool.
If the professor said there was some kind of event here, if that was reflected in the mortal realm, having a newspaper, having something to go on would be a good idea.
That's a good thought.
And as you do so, you can go up to a machine just on the street and plug a coin in and get a newspaper out. That's absolutely fine. As you do so, Mira, as you're walking down the road just ahead of them, your raven perches himself on a fence nearby and quite quietly just says, "Smoke to the north. Something blew up. Gotta go look."
Okay. Good luck.
The newspaper, it's got some headlines, specifically one that says Cincinnati's Day of Chaos.
Okay. I guess we arrived at the right or wrong time then.
Are you, as you're walking through the streets, are you having a browse of this paper to find out more details?
I think I'll be navigating, but I'll let someone else kind of do the rummaging.
Sure, absolutely. Who is going to have a browse of this paper then?
I think I would quite like to have a browse, because apart from anything, I would like to, now that the translation spells that are set around the academy aren't in place, I would like to fully cement my English skills.
Absolutely. Well, you find a number of things, and it's all listed on this front page, which has a large black and white photo of what seems to be a kind of a factory, partly wrecked factory with flames still running through it and great clouds of smoke boiling up from it. Apparently, Cincinnati had a pretty bad day yesterday. There are mentions of numerous things. This manufacturing plant explosion. I wonder how that happened. Something about a library fire that's burnt down an old, well-established library. Something about some kind of spree kill massacre on the west side of the city at a gas station. And also unsubstantiated reports of wild animals somehow broken free and roaming the city.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like this every day. Factory explosion, library burnt down, animals roaming the streets.
I mean, even for America, that's pretty wild.
A library burning down is a tragedy in any time or place.
I think that might be what Bill saw to the north, so we might get a bit more information once he gets back.
Is there any description in the newspaper about what kind of animals?
No, because no one seems to have had a really clear look at them. But just reports, like kind of like big cat reports like we used to get here in the UK, stuff like that. Oh, I swear it looked like a big fearsome animal, but I didn't really get a good look at it, sort of thing.
Right.
Like, you brush it off as like a National Enquirer headline, but with all the other stuff as well, it's just like, ugh. And also knowing what you do, that magic may have been involved here to a certain degree. Anything's kind of possible. And on that note, you round a corner and find yourself in front, or kind of adjacent to, the entrance to the address you've been given. And I'm sure you will be shocked to find out that this address is a diner called the Spindrift Diner, a retro 50s-esque establishment. Walking up to it, you can see that it has a closed sign on the door, but the time listed as opening is only 10 minutes away. No one seems to be in there. The lights aren't on, and it has a small car park in front of it that is empty except for a smallish, beat-up yellow car. It has the windows wound down, and sat snoring quite loudly in the driver's seat with the chair tilted back slightly is a tall, hefty young man with floppy blonde hair who appears to be very happily off in the land of Nod. He's wearing diner work. I don't need to go into this detail. You know who it is. And he's asleep in his car.
I am delighted we have reached closure on this, because I knew exactly what his aura meant when it was described to me on the thing, because
sleepy.
I have this memorized, because I lost my childhood to this game. Anyway. I have no reason to believe that this gentleman is awakened, so let's go and what do the glasses say, Myra?
I will, I'll look through the glasses just at the diner and see if there's anything interesting.
No, nothing like that. You suspect the purpose of the glasses is solely to allow you access back to the hotel.
That's what I thought, yeah. So in which case, I'm just going to see that it's like 10 minutes to the opening time on diner. And I'm just going to because I don't have any resources either. And I'm probably quite hungry. So I'm just going to go around back and have a look in the bins and see if there's either anything reasonably fresh that's been thrown out, or if there's anything money adjacent.
Sure, absolutely. Only no raven totem this time, just an old-fashioned normal raven. Well, not
this
normal.
Is the second time this group of players has looted this alley.
Has looted an alleyway behind a diner.
Now, before we do that, is there anything I could do with entropy to boost my chances
there is,
here?
because it's manipulation of chance, isn't it? So let's have a look, a quick look. My PDF crashing again. Constant, folks, constant.
What do you need? Entropy,
ass.
So entropy 2 would be control probability.
Well, that sounds like it then, doesn't it? I am going to say yes, absolutely. I don't think you need to use another sphere with it. If you're just especially trying to influence the luck you might have, i.e. lowering the difficulty of the roll to scavenge something, I think just willpower on its own is fine. So we said entropy level 2. So that would be, and it's definitely coincidental, it's not vulgar. So I would say that's going to be a difficulty of 5. Are you using any of your instruments or your focus to do stuff in any particular way? You're on mute. Sorry, Holly.
Oh, sorry. I'll be using one of my instruments, which is a little. It's not a coin of any denomination that is usable in any country in the world at the current point in time.
Sure.
But yeah, it's small gold coin on a leather band around my neck, and I'm just going to thumb that while just having a little think.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's fine. That knocks you down to 4. Are you fast casting this? Are you or are you taking your time to scavenge?
No, I'm taking I've got 10 minutes. So
yeah, you have. You absolutely do. I don't think there's any other adjustments to be made, so I think that's just a level 4 roll of arete, please.
Okay, that's only 1 success because I got a 1 and a 7, which evened out. So.
In that case, I'm going to adjust your difficulty to scavenge by 1. That seems fair. So why don't you give me a perception plus survival roll? And I was going to set it as difficulty 8, so let's set it at difficulty 7.
Okay. Yeah, 1 success.
You find it's not much, but you find, let's say, what's something that will be eatable, but also potentially throw outable. You find a small slice of chocolate pie, that is kind of, it's in like a plastic container that it might have been put in the fridge to just get out, but it's like it's over the day, like it's got someone's written used by yesterday's date on it, so it should still be good.
Sure, but it's still like a sealed container, so
Yeah, exactly, and it's probably full of sugar, so it's probably fine.
Yeah, I'll grab that, and then I'll just come back around the outsides, just eating it.
Sure, absolutely. Are the other three of you been doing anything while you're here? I'm assuming it sounds like we're not interrupting the peacefully snoozing diner worker.
No, I think that's unnecessarily cruel. I am going to thoroughly examine, maybe in a kind of surreptitiously secreting myself around the corner, and just take a good long look at the structure of this building once again with the magnifying glass and the little pendulum, trying to work out if this is a node, or at least is in some way magical or has any resonance about it that might indicate that mages use it frequently.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's going to be the same roll as before, but without the extra from node. So I think that works out as
Right, let's do it from scratch. So highest sphere is 2, plus 3 is difficulty 5 to start.
Yeah, and then you're using a personalized instrument, so we'll knock that down to 4. There's no need to fast cast. Yeah, I'd say that's just a difficulty 4, really.
Okay, let's give it a go. Oh my god, three successes on 2 10s.
It's absolutely great. What you've got here, Chris, is a diner.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing magical about this place.
I'll walk around triumphantly, approach the group, and state, well, I can tell you 100% that this is a diner.
So, why are we meeting here again?
I don't know, but this is where we were told to go. It doesn't seem to be magical.
Devices are going to be delivered to you here, apparently. As Mira is walking around from the back of the diner, a gentleman who's wearing, again, kind of diner workers gear, and like a little, like a little old-fashioned 50s stripy hat that maybe a chef might wear or something like that, walks along the road, and he's kind of sort of humming a bright tune to himself. He walks into the parking lot and kind of sees you kind of standing sort of near the door to the diner, and gives a sort of like a half a wave, and then glances over and sees the young man sleeping in his car, and kind of sort of shakes his head. He goes over. He's quite a short guy, maybe in his 60s or so, kind of very graying hair. He's kind of like African American. He's got a very kind of like a kind of weather-beaten face, but not an unkind face, but certainly he's a guy who's maybe been through some stuff. He walks over to the car, and kind of, it's close enough that you can hear all the interaction. He reaches out and shakes the young man very, very gently by the shoulder, and the young man kind of like just kind of like slowly comes to and blinks a bit, and looks up and says, "Oh, hi, Roy. What, Marshall? I told you about falling asleep in the parking lot. Someone could reach in and steal stuff from you or mug you. Why don't you go home and get some sleep?" "Oh, sure, yeah. You do remember last night, Marshall, right? You had another episode. Don't look. Go home and take your medication and get some sleep, okay?" "Sure. Yeah, sure, Roy. No problem. I'll see you tomorrow." Roy kind of nods and kind of pats the top of the car, like a couple of times. And the young man, Marshall, kind of starts up the car and slowly kind of reverses out, and you can hear a kind of happy whistling tune coming from it as he peels out onto the road. Roy walks up to the door and walks up kind of to start unlocking it, and turns around and says, I'm sorry about that. He's a real good kid, but he's got his issues. He was up on the roof again last night. I just worry about him. He glances over to Mira and kind of glances down at like the chocolate pie, kind of a distinctively made chocolate pie that you're holding, and he kind of glances down and goes, You kids okay? You got something to eat?
I do now. This is real good pie.
I know it is. Why don't you come on in and have breakfast? He opens the door and walks in and kind of flicks on all the lights. The jukebox immediately kind of starts up and starts playing. I don't know, let's say some Elvis is playing. The TV comes on and starts playing like an old, maybe an old recording of a hockey game, let's say. And Roy goes behind the kind of behind the bar, not bar, what do you call it, the counter, and starts kind of like turning everything on, boiling up some coffee and starting up everything. And fairly soon, unless anyone is going to object, and I'm shuffling a bit along here because I want to get to a certain point before we finish and I don't want to go too late, would it be safe to say that you'd be happily escorted to one of these like the cabinets by Roy and just serve some breakfast apparently for free?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great.
Yep.
Yeah,
Especially if it's chilly.
It is not chilly, I'm afraid.
It's not chilly. Oh,
It's
I missed
probably
out.
like
I missed out. I'm never going to get chilly.
they'll be chilly when we go back, Carolyn.
it's a very, very American style breakfast. You know, there are waffles and bacon and all this kind of stuff, pancakes and all this kind of stuff.
It's just not the same. I say, just like stuffing my face with.
Carolyn, before we move on, actually, I've no idea you've got time, and we haven't discussed what spheres we have, so I'll make this point generally. Wonder what happened last night then, here specifically.
Okay, just
take your time. Take your time. We're in no rush. We're waiting for these things to arrive, and we have a whole half day to work out what's going on here.
I wonder if might help if I'm. What was happening? I don't know if we want to find out what was happening last night with the guy on the roof, or
just if we're going to be investigating abnormalities.
Yeah, might as well start
Maybe
somewhere.
Start where we're sat instead of waiting to.
Yeah, although it might be. I find it a bit restrictive in here, so I might just nip out for a second and. I think
let's finish breakfast.
No, it's okay. I'm already done, as you can see.
I mean, let us finish breakfast and then we'll move on.
As you're having this conversation, I'm not against this notion. Just maybe we'll do it next week because I want to reach a certain point tonight. As you're having this conversation, a few more customers have already entered and kind of said hi to Roy and are having their breakfast. But another individual walks in who looks a little unusual compared to the others. They're wearing a thick raincoat and a wide-brimmed hat in the rising summer heat. They enter the door, look around in a very smooth, odd fashion, and head straight for your table. And unless someone blocks them from doing so, will just sit down. And you can fit three abreast opposite each other. So there is room for them to do that. And let's say they sit down again, unless stopped, next to Roth.
If Roth is in any way distracted, I will try and steal some of the food.
Roth already predicts this happening and places his arm between Carolyn and breakfast in order to turn to the new visitor.
Sure. The visitor sort of like is hunched over and you can barely see his features until he kind of reaches up and removes the hat and places it on the table again in quite an odd, smooth, functional way. It's the professor, or at least it looks like the professor. They have an oddly smooth skin and a weird sheen to their eyes that seems to reflect just a little bit too much.
Professor, is that you in there?
This is not the professor. I am a messenger. I have
Okay.
brought you things.
Thank you. We are ready to receive.
Before you stop speaking there, the figure reaches inside that big bulky raincoat and brings out of it what look to be 5 small devices, looking more than anything like small snow globes. But these snow globes are not full of snow, but instead what seem like still hologram-like images of locations, with sort of a sensation, something that looks kind of like mist, but not quite like mist, kind of drifting around them a bit and around the sides of them. They are probably they're small snow globe size each. The figure lays 5 of them out on the table in kind of perfect symmetry and looks up at you as if waiting instructions. Are we going to take a look at the snow globes?
Yeah, I was about to say, so you said there were like buildings represented in them. Can we see what those buildings are?
You absolutely can if you pick them up and examine them, and I'm happy for you all to do it or whatever. And I will lead through them one by one. Firstly, and let's say I'll you know what, I'll roll for one of each of you, and because Mira was the first to say, Mira will look at 2 of them. So Mira, you're going to get let's say who is going to get this first one. The first person to pick one up is Carolyn, who picks up what looks to be a image of a manufacturing plant, partly wrecked, with a huge column of smoke rising above it. It looks very, very reminiscent of the photograph you saw on the front of the newspaper that Charlie and Roth were handling. Next, we have one picked up. This is the first one picked up by Mira, and this is going to be an old-fashioned looking building of exquisite Gothic architecture, which is wreathed almost entirely in flame, pouring out of the windows and doorway. The next person to pick one up will be this is a Mira again, after probably approving of Gothic architecture on fire. Picks up what seems to be a average looking gas station ringed in police tape and surrounded by cop cars. The next person, who is going to be Roth, picks up what looks to be a barely visible edifice of some kind, mostly concealed by the odd swirling mist effect inside it. Neon white letters hover above it saying error. And the final one will be picked up by Charlie. It's some kind of small wooded grove leading into a rock face where a tunnel or cave entrance leads into darkness. The only thing visible inside is something that looks uncomfortably like many, many scattered bones on the earthen floor. And I think we will leave our first part there. Thank you so much, folks. I'm sure we'll pick up next week with some fun time-related dancing in that car park. But until then, if anyone's got any comments or questions, please sling them into the chat, make them magically appear over there, and we will talk about them. In the meantime, here's some lovely promo. Links down below to Twitch and YouTube. Please check out one, because you're watching on one. Why not check out the other? Links to our social media, our Patreon, our Discord. If you're interested in those things, please go and have a look. We run 3 weekly series here on Twitch. Mondays is Shadows of Esteren. Wednesdays is Symbaroom, and Thursdays is this, the Cincinnati Chronicles, our World of Darkness anthology series. All of them start at 8 o'clock p.m. GMT. We also run one-shots on the first weekend of every month. There's a whole bunch of those over on YouTube if you want to check them out. The next one will be on or around February the 5th and will be Tales from the Loop, which is being run by myself, and I think so far is starring John and Steve. Right? Yeah. Yeah,
Something
like that.
I'm sure we'll pick up a couple of people as well. So there we go. Have we got any comments or questions, John? I have to say, you know what? I thought we'd draw more people for the first episode of Mage, but it's been very modest tonight. Not that we don't appreciate the people we do have here, but maybe Paradox cut us down. Steve, very much enjoying the cross-story references popping up. Thank you. It's partly why I did
Me too.
I love that shit.
I was so sure we'd be behind the library in this story.
Out of interest, how very quickly did it become apparent that this was after everything else? Was that more or less immediately apparent, or did it take like
I think
or something to figure it out?
I think I figured it out when you said this was happening in the morning. That kind of said, well, it can't go back 2 days, so it kind of has to be the morning after. That's a very mathematical way of looking at it.
When the Raven saw smoke, I was like, smoke, you say?
Raven, you say?
Raven, you say? Yeah.
Actually, no. It was when the professor was like, something weird has happened in Cincinnati. I'm like, well, it can't be 2 days worth of weird things. So
sure, no, absolutely. 42. I take the towel. I get it. So yeah. I get it. I shouldn't say that in a condescending way. I love hitchhikers. John, to be fair, if I could see the future when I was in high school, I'd definitely use it to figure out if I should volunteer for extra homework. Yeah, that's definitely what I'd have used it for. Not to like think about what would give me good career prospects or like.
I mean,
I would use it for lottery numbers. Oh my god!
You first of all, you can't do the lottery when you're in high school. Well, I guess you can in the last 2 years.
You can
the age
age
16
yourself
in the UK, right?
up to the correct age.
So. Let's all be brutally honest. If I could see the future when I was in high school, the main thing I would be trying to see is, when will I get laid?
I mean, that's classic foresight and teenage.
I must admit, if we can talk about, I think forever playing Mage now, because I have played it a fair bit. I think I really would love to play a game where either it runs for enough time for us to get into the higher spheres, or we go out there with like 50 freebie points and get to kind of build something a bit more powerful.
There is an appeal to like having a high-powered mage character for sure.
There's certainly
a very different game by then, I think.
There's also the fact that we're moving through this world, and it's always the way with these chronicles, filled with wonderful things that are so far beyond our reach and capability. You're just, oh wow, a whole correspondence 5 gateway, and we're sat with some flipping at least Prime 4 androids, correspondence God knows how much, kind of like this stuff to make these are at the bottom end of all of the descriptions for the effects.
Yeah. Look at all these wonderful things I can't do and never will because it's only a 4-part story. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Hey, what
you're saying is thank you for showing me these wondrous things, Matt.
No, it's really lovely. I do love Flappy University land.
Cloud University. It's literally one single reference in an old World of Darkness book that gives a list of different colleges that exist, and one of them says Narentus University in the Cloud Realm. That's it. And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do that.
No, you nailed it. It felt like some kind of medieval Terry Pratchett meets Red Dwarf meets, I don't know. It was just nice.
Good. I wanted a different... I'm not saying Mage won't go dark. I mean, you're literally going to go investigate the gas station, right? But like, I definitely wanted at least an opening that had a certain sense of whimsy to it. 42, a steampunk elevator. Was steampunk even invented in the 90s? Definitely was. I couldn't put my finger on exactly when steampunk began, as it were, but there were definitely like role-playing games based around steampunk in the early 90s. There's one called, is it called Space 1899 or something? It's like an old,
yeah.
you know, like 60s style, like you know, John Carter of Mars type thing with like steampunk elements added and like space galleons and stuff.
But wasn't
Well,
steam power like in the early 2000s? So how could steampunk have happened in the 90s?
What?
Well, it's like how Cyberpunk 2020 happened before the 2020s.
John pointed out just
I don't
directly
have a fax
after
machine in my
that comment, though, that's like the steampunk references are literally in the second ed Mage book.
Well, yeah, they are.
Cult
Yeah, the
of
Sons of
Ether.
Ether are,
Yeah.
or Society of Ether, as we're calling them. Within the universe, there are definitely factions that call them one and the other, and the dominant one being the old school misogynists of the Society of the Sons of Ether.
I keep
of
calling
which
them
Charlie
the
is not
Cult of
one.
Ether, which kind
Cult
of
of Ether.
I don't know, tells
Society
me
of
what I want out of them.
Ecstasy.
Yeah.
That just occurs to me. We didn't really talk about the other traditions of the other people. I'm sure anyone who's a real Mage fan will have noted them all already. But as we said, Charlie is Society of Ether, Carolyn is Cult of Ecstasy, Mira is Euthanatos, and I've forgotten your character's name. Roth is Verbena. Verbena. I always pronounce it Verbena. I don't know if that's right.
I say Verbena, but I don't know if that's correct either.
Sounds more like a herb name, which is what it is, right? Verbena.
Yeah.
Verbena.
But I don't know if it's one of those herbs that like Brits and Americans pronounce it differently, or even
Probably.
Northern Brits and Southern Brits pronounce it differently. I don't know.
I'm sure if you go to an obscure enough part of Britain, it's called like Harold's Toe or something like that.
Probably. But is it an oregano kind of situation?
Yeah, or indeed a herb.
Cilantro and the
As
proper
Izzard
name for
once said,
cilantro.
because there's a fucking H in it.
Oh man, you're starting a hate war, Matt.
I
It's
heard Clown
dangerous.
University. I'm not responsible for that 42.
There's probably one of those in Mage, though. Somewhere.
Probably. That's definitely a different kind of chronicle. Lovely stuff. All right. Well, thank you so much for those comments, folks. We hope you enjoyed that. We hope you enjoyed the start of our Mage the Ascension arc. And we'll be back next week for more of it, whether you like it or not. So hopefully you did. But yeah, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. And go Bengals for the weekend.
Bye.